there, and welcome to the little apartment on the prairie. I am washing dishes. See my big sink and all my dirty dishes? Yeah. Okay, so I thought while I was doing that, I'd tell you a couple stories. And here comes Isaac. Are you going to bring me your Kong? He hears me talking, I swear. He's like sound asleep. He hears me start talking. He's like, wait a minute. You should give me a treat in my Kong to entertain me while you're talking. He does that when I'm on the phone. And that's my fault, because I've kind of taught him to do that, because if he bugs me when I'm on the phone, I'll give him a treat in his Kong to entertain him. So now he's like, oh, Mom's on the phone, I know how to get a treat. Obviously, I'm not on the phone now, but I'm talking to someone who's not him, and so he figures it works the same way, I guess. Anyway, if you bring me your Kong, I'll give you one. Come here. Give it while I've got my hands dry, please. So, early in the pandemic, I had talked about, I think I talked about it in one of my videos. If I didn't, maybe I just talked about it to friends. I know I talked about it to someone besides just in my head. Anyway, I talked about how I noticed some things were changing and the way people interacted with each other in my town. And I worried that kind of some cultural norms would change in ways that I didn't like. Now, I'm okay with, like, people you don't know very well, they don't expect you to hug them right now. That's cool with me. I don't mind not shaking hands. I'm good with the, like, you don't blow out candles on a birthday cake now. Because if you think about it, that's kind of gross. Always has been. We just never thought about it that way. But, you know, I live in a small town where people are really friendly. So you're in the grocery store, people make small talk in the line at the grocery store. There was a time when that would have, like, just seemed annoying to me, when I liked privacy more than I liked community. And that's fine, if, you know, it's fine. There are places in the U.S., and I'm sure in other countries, where people are more private and less friendly, and places where they're more friendly. And I think we have kind of a good mix here. Like, people aren't, they're not, like, horribly nosy about personal stuff, but they do like to chat, and they like to kind of know what's going on. But they don't ask a lot of really personal and basic questions, I don't think. But part of that also seems to be like a cultural thing. Like, questions that would be rude to ask in one part of the country are apparently commonplace questions other parts of the country. Anyway, I'll tell you stories about traveling places with my service dog some other time, where I really noticed that a lot, like what is considered appropriate to ask a person with a service dog, because it really varies regionally. But that's not today's story. So, anyway, I had noticed that, like, in the grocery store, for one thing, it seemed like it was a little bit hard to chit-chat with the mask on. I don't know why. You can talk just fine with one on, but we weren't used to wearing one, I guess. And then everybody was trying to socially distance. And so if you, like, walked around the corner and there was somebody else in the aisle, you'd, like, kind of, you know, step away from each other and, you know, keep your distance. And instead of, like, stop and chat with somebody about, oh, you're buying cake mix, is it a birthday cake? You know, which is what people would typically do here. So I guess we're getting used to wearing masks, and we're finding ways now to do things that are different in some ways because of the pandemic, but that still really maintain what our culture is. So, for instance, I went the other day to buy some tomatoes from this guy. I haven't gotten a lot of tomatoes yet out of my garden, but I wanted to make salsa, and there's this guy who lives, I don't know if you call it a farm or just a really big garden, but every summer he grows sweet corn and tomatoes. And, like, everybody where I live will ask you, have you gone down to that place on 136 yet to buy sweet corn? And so I went down there to get tomatoes for salsa. And so the guy comes out of his house, and he's wearing a mask, and I was wearing a mask also. But here's the cool part. Out in his driveway, he had this whole setup. He had this long table, and he had a sign up that said, please shop with your eyes. If you touch it, you buy it. And then he had a scale, and he had the list of, like, how much it was for a pound of tomatoes and how much it was for sweet corn and whatever. But there was a scale, so you could put your tomatoes on the scale yourself. And then there were bags that you could bag up your own tomatoes. And then he had this cash box with the thing that said, put your money in here and you can get your change from here. So like I was paying with the $20 bill and I needed $6 in change. So you help yourself to your change and you do it all yourself. So he's not handling the food. Hopefully nobody else has been handling the tomatoes. And, you know, if you're getting change out of the box, somebody else has handled the change, but you're not having that interaction, you know, with him where you're handing things back and forth. Whereas in the past, you know, you might have picked out the tomatoes you wanted and handed them to him to put on the scale. Or maybe you would have put them on the scale yourself, but then he would have bagged them up for you and handed you the bag. So there was none of that. But the whole time he's standing, not too close, but having a nice chat. And he's telling me about this one variety of tomato, which wasn't what I was picking out for salsa. And I forget what kind of tomato he said it was now, because he had several varieties. But it was an heirloom variety, and they were like a pinkish color. And he was telling me how they were really good, and they were great on sandwiches. So I bought a couple of those along with all the tomatoes I bought for my salsa. And we discussed salsa recipes and, you know, the kind of conversation that you would typically have when you're buying at a farmer's market or at someone's, you know, driveway around here. But socially distant, you know, masks on and everything. So then I went from there to the liquor store to buy night crawlers for fishing. Yes, in my town we get night crawlers at the liquor store. I know in some towns, like, or some places I've been before, they sell them at like gas stations that are near lakes or whatever. There's not a lake right by my house. There are several lakes and a river and places you can fish within, you know, not a long driving distance, but probably those liquor stores. And we have 2 liquor stores in my town. I don't know why we're big enough to need 2 liquor stores. I mean, we need one convenience store where you can go buy milk and bread and beer and candy and coffee and gasoline, but 2 liquor stores. But both the liquor stores sell night crawlers because that is where you get your bait where I live, okay? And I guess they probably get a lot of people who like stop to buy their beer and their bait on their way to a fishing trip, and they also sell beef jerky. So anyway, I went to the liquor store. One of them is rumored to have much better night crawlers than the other one. So I went to the one that's supposed to have the good night crawlers and to buy some worms. And there are these 2 old men sitting on a picnic table outside, just, you know, hanging out and chatting like old men do, I guess. Where I used to live, they did that a lot at the hardware store. Here they do it a lot up at the one gas station / convenience store, but apparently they also do it at the liquor store, which I hadn't noticed before. But there's like this rickety old picnic table to the side, and these 2 old men were sitting there chatting, and they were, you know, leaning across the table towards each other, you know, pretty close. But as I parked my car and got out, I realized they're both wearing masks. And it was like, I was a little surprised to see them in masks. I don't know why. I guess I'm thinking they're old country guys who hang out outside the liquor store. That I had like some stereotype in my head that I wouldn't have expected them to have on masks. And I was wrong. They were. So then I go into the store and I have this nice chat about where I'm going fishing and what I've been catching lately and stuff with the guy while I'm buying my worms. And I told him I might go down to this one lake. And he says, if you do, walk out to that little gazebo that like extends. It's like a little walkway that extends into the lake just a little ways. And then there's a gazebo. And I'm like, oh, do you fish from there? He's like, no, but I was there yesterday with my grandkids. And they drew this lovely artwork with chalk all over that sidewalk. So just walk over there and look at the artwork they drew. And that is the kind of conversation we have here. And we're back to doing that again with our masks on, socially distant. And it was just really refreshing. It was enjoyable. So, yeah, I was glad to kind of have some of that old interaction like you used to have. Isaac, shush, you come here if you want another treat. I'll give you one. There's Sassy. Sassy woke up. Everybody was sleeping earlier. Isaac, come here. Now everybody's awake. Time to bug me. it was just refreshing to see that. And that's the kind of small town things that, like I said, there's a time in my life when I didn't want to chit chat with somebody about where I was going fishing or my salsa recipe. I would have just wanted to buy what I'm buying and leave. And I wouldn't have liked living in a place where people chat and know everybody, and whatever lake you tell them you're going to go fishing at, they've been there, and But I like that now. That's what I like about being in a small town. And I'll have to tell you some small town stories about just what a small town it is, but that'll be another day too, except I will tell you this. The guy who owns the liquor store where I bought night crawlers, he has been known to let people run a tab for their liquor when they really need liquor and they're not getting paid till Friday and they've had a really bad day and they need a bottle of something tonight. He'll let you run a tab at the liquor store. That's what kind of small town I live in. All right, so if any of you are in small towns, let me know your small town stories, or let me know kind of what you're seeing in your town, how interactions with people have changed, how they haven't, what kind of norms you see that are different now, and what's still the same. And if you like it the way it's changed, or if you miss the way it used to be. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And everybody have a good day.